Excellent. Well, thanks for joining us. I'm sure we're catching you between some sort of workout that you had going on there at the house with everybody. For starters, before we get into kind of the scoring stuff, you have kind of set the tone here. You're one of the first people out with these home workouts and everything. What's that been like for you, and what's been the response?
Oh, well, I think for anyone, it's hard to have something taken away from you that you're used to doing. And, for me and my family, that's going to the pool a lot. So we wanted to do, it's a good opportunity though, to do new things. And so these are some of these workouts I had actually wanted to do for a while, but I was always doing workouts in the pool. A lot of these were games that I used to play when I was a kid or when I was on the junior team and we were traveling and you had nothing else to do all day. And I haven't done this one yet, but we used to do one where you're standing in a doorway. It was like 3-on-3. We used to do that with the junior team all the time. And you're sort of blocking with your hands above and the two other guys are on their knees blocking the low shots. So, but a lot of fun stuff. And these are games I play with my kids in the house. And it was just cool to be able to put it out there and then see the response. And I had a lot of people from the old days texting me, "Oh, I remember when we used to do that game." And we would pretend like it was the FINA World Championships, and we'd, play best of seven. And so it was pretty cool to do and fun to do with my kids as well.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were just kind of around the dinner table every night trying to dream up the next thing. Body weight workouts. There was that one where everyone's flipping over each other. There was all kinds of stuff going on.
Yeah, no, it wasn't too much brainstorming. It just sort of came organically, exercises and drills that we had been doing, and then some trying to make it fun and exciting. That's all.
What's been the type of workouts, as we talk about this at home stuff, what's been the stuff that's resonated the most, do you think, that people have really gravitated towards? Because everyone wants to still feel active and engaged. What do you think people are picking up on the most?
Yeah, I think a lot of people asking questions about the rebounder drills. People can working on their fake, the little game in the house with the softball where you're just working on different faking motions and release points. People like to see fun new things, and especially related to water polo, that combination, something that you feel like you're building your skills, but also having a fun time with.
You guys at Cap 7, they had a run on those rebounders, right? Everyone was after all of your gear.
Yeah, they sold out. They sold out everywhere. I mean, we actually just got a shipment in recently, but a lot of stuff that sort of wasn't. I mean, the rebounders were always selling, but a lot of other products like the rope you tie, the bungee cord you tie around your waist, and you can do the training in a small pool. That you couldn't. There's a lot of stuff like that sold a lot faster than it has been.
Excellent stuff. So we'll talk more about things people can work on, but everyone has been figuring out ways they can get better even though they can't be in the pool. The title of our talk here about scoring ability, this was something that you were very good at when you were playing at a high level. And I always joke that you could probably still give us 2 or 3 goals if we needed it out there for Team USA. But was there something, was it a mindset, a skill you learned, something that you really picked up at an early age that helped develop your ability to be a guy that can be counted on to score?
I think it was that's something fun to, it's fun to be able to score goals. Everyone likes to be, celebrate and be happy. So it's a one of the ultimate goals of the game. But I used to like to watch the star players. So when I was growing up, SDRD was just the most dominant player in the world, and really no one's come close to him if you look at like total Olympic goals, and just watch what they're doing. And one thing he was the best at was his anticipation. As we all know, he was a really small player back then, even for today, and he could just anticipate better than anyone. So I think that's one thing. You don't need any size. You don't need a lot of speed, actually. You just need a little bit of quickness and anticipation. Anyone can do that. So that's something that no one will say you're too small for that. And you can really get a lot of goals. I used to score most of my goals just anticipating on the counterattack and breaking away. And if you're not that fast, you can cut a player off and keep them on their back. You don't have to just swim straight. A lot of players, when they get up on the counter, they get up, they're up 2 strokes and they swim straight. And then the faster players just sort of chase them down. And I used to like to use my body, take that first stroke or two, cut a player off, buy some time for maybe the goalkeeper to get the rebound, or, the play to get settled, and make the player put their hands up and then break and make a move. So that's really, for me, the most interesting way to get a goal is not watch the ball go to 2 meters, not watch the shot, not watch the rebound. If you're up top, you just sort of take off and then use your body.
And, it's interesting. You talk about scoring, and I think most people would think, well, you're going to tell us all about the shots you practiced and, how many times you were shooting from this position or that position. But really, for you, it was that mental edge, being able to anticipate. How much then did you also add in just the mechanics of putting the ball away, whether it was something on the counter, whether it was shooting, whatever it took to be able to score?
No, well, I mean, it's everything. That's just one aspect. We worked forever on shooting around a shot block, working on leaning your body one way and bringing your arm, making it look tricky. Shooting off a pass, everyone can do that. Just catch and shoot quick. You have to practice that a lot. Like anything on these shots, you really have to practice it a lot. And those are things you keep working on. And then what I love to do is work on shots that may not come up that often, but once every 15 games, once every 30 games, if you practice something like a backhand or an inside the water shot with your offhand, and be able to use those and score those are really rewarding as well.
Yeah, I can still remember a goal you scored. It might have been Premier League. It was something a long time ago. It was a goal I don't think I've seen since, where essentially you kind of drove by yourself on kind of 2 meters. You just held the ball up high and kind of went around people and tucked the ball into the near side post. And it was just that creativity you kind of brought to the game. Were you always trying to think of ways to try and do something different that someone else hadn't done?
Yeah, and that's stuff I practice a lot. I mean, I love being with my head under the water. I've got the ball up and seeing the defense from under the water. And some people assume, oh, well, how can you see anything? But your eyes are open. You're looking at where the players are. You can move around and sort of weaving in between 2 or 3 players in inside water. Those to me are the most fun plays in the game, and they're pretty fun to watch. I mean, if you watch Dennis Varga highlights, he does that a few times lately. Really, really fun to watch. Another shot I worked on for a long time when I was playing in Greece was a spin lob. And I just spent one season basically just working on it, every practice. And then I got a couple games where it really became a key goal in the game. And it's a spin lob. If you haven't practiced it a lot, I don't recommend players taking it because it's a good way to get put on the bench by the coach. But if you can spend the time and work on one really good shot that goalies aren't used to seeing, then that can help. I mean, this past summer, Nationals, we were playing Cal and the quarter was winding down. I was about 13 meters out and I just threw a spin lob up. I probably wouldn't have done it any other normal time in the game, but just because it was the end of the period and it just arced perfectly into the goal. And Everest wasn't too happy with his goalie at that point.
You also coach at UC Santa Barbara. You coach the men's team there. What are some of the things, obviously you have players that you coach that are much different than you, whether it's a center, different sizes, abilities. What are some of the other things you're always telling your guys as far as it pertains to being successful on offense?
Well, you always have to know where the ball is. You always want to be moving, you always want to be active. You see a lot of players, especially in age group, they'll swim down to the front court and sit there. They'll drop their hips and they'll just wait for other things to happen, wait for the 2 meter player. And I like to always have my hips up, always be moving a little bit, even if there's not much going on, looking for that drive opportunity, looking to get inside water, looking to set myself up to push off the defender and break back and get a cross pass. There's no resting, and mentally it's even more important than physically, but you have to have your body in the right position, and then good things will happen. There's no play. You can't dictate what's going to happen. It's sort of like in chess, you put the pieces in the right places. You don't necessarily have some huge master game plan 17 moves from now, but if you put yourself in the right place, more often than not, good things are going to happen.
One of the most fascinating things about you, I think, is the years where you switched from righty to lefty, either based off of an injury or off of a coach's preference. That's another skill I think you always hear anecdotally about parents hoping, well, if they have a kid, maybe they'll teach him how to be a baseball pitcher. They can throw left or right, or if you can work on that left hand, he'll be more valuable. But you pick this up kind of mid-career, and it ends up being a valuable asset to the way you play.
Well, yeah, I'd always heard always been encouraged to use both hands just because I think it's helpful in the flow of the game to be able to use your left hand. There's a lot of coaches out there who tell you don't ever touch it with your left hand. It's a waste of time. You'd be surprised how many coaches are out there. And I remember hearing how Terry Schroeder at one point had broken his hand or injured his hand, and he spent like a couple months working on his left hand. And then later he was able to score some big goals in the games with his left hand. And, that was something I was looking forward to do. In the first time I played professionally in Greece, the coach was one of the coaches. I started passing, and then I'd start passing with my left hand. And the coach was like, stop, don't ever play with your left. That's never going to happen. You're never going to. And then we played Partizan in the Len Trophy, the quarterfinals. And I had 2 goals left-handed, and the coach was like, okay, you can practice with your left hand. But yeah, in 2001, I played left-handed because we didn't have a left-hander on the roster at the World Championships. And then in 2005, my right shoulder was bothering me, and I played left-handed in the Premier League that season as well. So it's just a fun way to challenge yourself and improve your game.
We're talking with Wolf Wigo here, multiple-time Olympian, head coach, UC Santa Barbara. So many of the coaches, the athletes, the folks that are established in the sport that we've talked to have talked about the importance of being adaptable, of being able to fill a role. I imagine you filled different roles over your career. You talked about being a lefty when you weren't a lefty. As a coach, as a player, how important have you found it to be that players be willing to take on a new role, be willing to find out where they fit?
Well, absolutely. Everyone should have a specialty of what they can do, but you really need to do all the roles. You never know when a player's going to get injured. Sometimes there'll be a season where two players will be injured, or someone will get a concussion, and you need someone else to switch over. And I always tell the guys, when you're trying to either make the travel roster, the more versatile you can be, the more you can do, the better you're going to put yourself in a position to make that roster. If you can guard 2 meters, in addition to being a lefty or doing whatever you can, that gives you two routes to playing time.
We're talking with Wolf Wigo, kind of jumping around here. You've had your hand in so many parts of this sport. You mentioned 2001 and switching to a left-hander. Your coach at the time was Ratko Rudic, a legendary coach, and just coming out today, Wall Street Journal article that you were quoted in about playing for Rudic, this legendary guy. If you don't know him, I think the comparables are fair when you talk about a Mike Krzyzewski in college basketball. You talk about Bill Walsh, these people that were just successful for long periods of time. Those guys stayed with the same teams. Rudic able to hop around and be successful with many programs. Just your memories of playing for him and what he's meant to the sport at large.
Well, he just really takes the bar what you think is possible and just raises it. And not many people can do that. So it's sort of like Elon Musk in the business world. It's like, how could we go to Mars? How could we build 1,000 starships to go to Mars? It's impossible, right? Or whatever he did with Tesla. And Ratko sort of takes what you don't think is humanly possible. And I still don't believe to this day the training we did. We were going 8-1 and 5-9. For most of that year leading up to the Olympics. And it was all no fluff. It was all hard training. You're just moving from one drill to the next drill, to the weight room, to the pool. We had weights on the deck. We were doing weights, and then we jump in and do the same muscles right away in the pool. A lot of innovative stuff that we were doing, but it was all fun. You're never bored. You're never thinking this drill is stupid. And you have a lot of buy-in from someone who's been so successful. There's no doubting, why are we doing this? A lot of times you'll get kids asking with why is my coach making us do this? Doesn't make sense to me. So everything sort of made sense. There was a plan, and he pushed everyone really to the limits. We really didn't have a strong team in 2004. He got sort of handed a deck with a bunch of 2s, 3s, a couple jacks. There wasn't, Tony was and Bailey were really the only players besides me returning from the previous Olympics. It was a really young team, and Ryan really wasn't close to his prime at that point. Ryan, his best Olympics was 2012, 8 years later. So, but we were very competitive with all the top teams in the world throughout that quadrennium. And it was because we were all in just great shape, working hard and following Rudic's plans.
So that was really one of those times where it was a bit of mind over matter, right? As you're saying, he's pushing you to to things that were just beyond. Did that experience change the way you work out, change what you expect from people that you coach, knowing that your limits were pushed?
I just think people are amazing. You watch anything on TV, you watch a guy juggling a basketball, on a pole that, 2 inches wide that overhangs a cliff, and he's bouncing off his head. You watch these big wave surfers, watch the surfers doing flips. Humans are amazing people. And if you push yourself and dedicate yourself, amazing things can happen. And, in 2004, I knew, and a lot of people knew, we didn't really have the talent of Hungary and some of these other teams that were just chock full of talent. But we worked so hard. And, it was a 1-goal game with Hungary in the fourth quarter, the team that, was in the middle of their biggest dynasty run of 3 Olympics. And we played right with them. And, we lost the game, but, it was amazing.
There's a story that Adam Wright tells in this article about you guys being at a meal abroad and the team that's hosting you is getting an extra vegetable serving that the U.S. team isn't getting. And just to send a message, Ratko just goes off and is, yelling at everybody. A, do you remember that moment? And B, what was the missing vegetable?
I don't remember the missing vegetable. I think it was probably a mixed vegetable plate. But there were a lot of moments like that. He's not accepting anything below the best and expecting the best from everyone, and that's why he was a great coach.
Wolf Wigo, also the coach at UC Santa Barbara. Your program had an amazing run last year. I know it didn't end where you wanted it to, especially after the way it started. But it was a fun moment because your team had really captured everyone's imagination for something different in college water polo from what it's been for the last several years. What made that run so special and that team so strong?
Just the last few years, the team has really gelled, and great group of guys. There's no one weighing the team down. Every practice, the guys are going after it, pushing each other in a good way. So really, really great group of players. They all bought into the defense that we did. And, my family still talks about the Stanford game. They were all there. We went up there and, hey, we're winning. Oh, we're still winning. Oh, we're still winning. And then it was just we ran away with it at the end. And, we had a couple players score some amazing goals that game. And, that whole season we had, even at the end, the GCC championships, we beat UOP by 5 goals. And we had just guys making career plays left and right, and it was just a fun season all the way from start to finish.
And do you feel like that's something that now you can build on going forward?
It definitely helps. I mean, part of it is a mental for a lot of the teams in the, let's say, 5 to 15, when you're going up against a top 5 team, top 4 team, it's almost more mental, and you tell them, hey, we can win every game. We can beat these guys. But if you haven't beaten a team in a couple of years and it's hard to actually believe it. And, once we beat Cal in that first tournament, everyone was really excited. And then all of a sudden we beat USC and everyone's very excited. And then we placed, and it keeps going. And we got so many good wins this year. I mean, we played the hardest schedule by far. I was looking at when, the NC2A bids were coming out, I sort of wish we would have made it, but they said, oh, well, you had 7 losses and these other teams had 5 losses. We played 7 or 8 more games against the top team. So we lost a couple. We lost to USC, a really close game at home. We lost to UOP. They were amazing games that were well played by both teams and fun just to be in so many exciting games.
Well, Flygo here, 3-time Olympian, also coach of UC Santa Barbara, as he was just telling us about their epic run this past season. One of their best all-time years, going back to when they won the national title back in 1979. We've talked a little bit about, obviously, your coaching, about your playing, about some of the activities, the training that you've been doing, the at-home training. I know you're also a big diet guy, and that's maybe something that we haven't talked about as much during this at-home situation. It's been a lot of what you can do to work out and stay fit, but one danger of being in your house a lot is eating everything in sight. How do you kind of guard against that, and what's been your message when you're communicating with your athletes and other folks to try and find that appropriate balance?
Well, absolutely. One thing I think is to have healthy snacks at home. You don't want to have bad food. So it starts with what food you put in your cupboard. Everyone has that moment where they're like bored or hungry between meals or late night, where they walk and open the cupboard and there's no game plan. They're just like, what am I going to eat? And if you have bad food in your cupboard, I mean, one thing I like to have is macadamia nuts. Just they taste great. Something I like there. I always try to have a smoothie every day, which is a really healthy smoothie where I'll have acai, different fruits each day, carrots, spinach, kale, and then a bunch of supplements, mushroom powders, cacao, different things that I'll put in the smoothie. I sort of have a bunch of bins. I'm going to do a video on this at some point.
Sure.
And so that really could fill you up. It's all good food. Don't make them too gross. Don't try to put a bunch of kale in there. I did that for a while and it was bad. My kids, no one would eat smoothies for a while. I was trying to make it too healthy. So you want to find a happy medium where you're not putting bad stuff in. You're not putting a bunch of fruit juice in as the base, because that's a lot of sugar. So you can do sugar-free, coconut milk, macadamia nut milk, stuff like that.
Do you ever have a day where you just like go to town on some terrible food? Does that exist or no?
No, it's a long process. Part of it is like my kids have they'd never eat at McDonald's in their life. Like, it's a slow process, but it's mainly from information and reading books about healthy foods and understanding why things are good for you. And once you have that knowledge, you sort of lose your motivation to just, hey, I'm going to go get a cheeseburger at Burger King. You're just like, no, I'm never going to eat those buns that they have that would last like 16 years if you just left them out. Never eat the meat that they serve there. So it's a process. I was vegan for 4 months. I don't really recommend that to anyone, but it's a good journey to do it and force yourself to find other foods out of your comfort zone. You can't just have a slab of meat, at every meal, and you have to use different things. So it's a long process. Part of it is knowledge, and then part of it is being disciplined. But once you know what the foods do to you, the bad foods do to you, you're going to stick with the good foods.
So we'll never catch like the Gauchos team van at In-N-Out Burger on the way back from Berkeley.
No, my first few years, the guys sort of talked me into like some of the worst, this Frankie's place in San Luis Obispo that's just all fried food and crap. But now we were doing Soup Plantation for a while, and now
R.I.P. Soup Plantation.
They've shut their doors. They put a nice video out, a little montage of the buffet there. But now we're almost always going to Whole Foods a lot and eating, good quality meals.
This just reminded me of a story, and maybe you can corroborate it. When you said Soup Plantation, I was thinking back to Ratko Rouge in 2004. I've heard that the team had many a meal at the Soup Plantation near the Los Alamitos pool. Is this true?
Absolutely. So, yeah, U.S. team has had a lot of meals there. UCSB has had a lot of meals there. My family's had a lot of meals there.
And one of your old teammates, Dan Klatt, has told me a story. This is, I guess, before nutrition had really swept across the entire team, of him during these epic swim sets being able to pop up out of the water and eat like a Hostess cupcake and then return to the water and finish the drill. Were you ever party to any of this?
Never saw that. We used to call him, maybe he was at the other end of the pool. We used to call it a banana break, but we'd have bananas and these protein shakes. We used to have all these protein shakes, and we'd be in the middle of like a 12,000 meter set, or swim training, and we'd finish one set, loosen out 2 laps, and just drink like 3 smoothies that have like 400 calories in them each or more, and then a banana, and then you keep going.
Let's talk about your beginning in water polo. And weird in the world of water polo, the both of us. You're born in New York City, right?
I was born in Pennsylvania, and then I moved to New York City when I was four.
Well,
yeah.
Regardless, the two of us coming up in that area and now talking about a bunch of water polo does not happen very often. Your path to water polo from Manhattan, from New York City, New York Athletic Club, to a high school that didn't have a water polo team, to Stanford and Team USA, it's almost unheard of. It doesn't really happen. You're the only guy I know that's done it. What was that journey like, and how do you kind of use that to inspire others? Because we're always talking about growing the game, and if anyone could be, a definition of kind of coming from an area where the sport was still up and coming, it's you.
Yeah, I think you're a lot hungrier for it. for me, I had to get on a subway train and travel an hour to my practice in Brooklyn when I went down and trained with St. Francis Club. And then, I trained with the New York Athletic Club also. But, my high school was an hour from my house. Then my pool was an hour the other direction. So on these days, I'm on the train for 4 hours and, you're doing homework and stuff. But it's and then for tournaments, we're usually, driving down to Annapolis or driving up to Brown. There's no competition right there. So it's a 3 or 4 hour trip, every time you want to play, makes you hungry. And I like to recruit a lot of out of state athletes because I know they probably have that same mentality if they really just want to get after it. We have a couple we've had a lot of good players from out of state. We had a player from Teddy from Utah. We've had the Shoemakers from Florida. Right now we have Mason from Chicago. So we've had a lot of good players, and I think it's that hunger and desire. It's not given to you so easily.
When you're riding the subway in the late 80s or the 90s with a bunch of water polo gear, do people look at you like you're a crazy person? I mean, what's the reaction when you're talking water polo back then?
I wasn't wearing my turbo on the train, so I think I sort of looked like a normal person and I had a backpack.
Okay.
One time I did have a surfboard on the train when I was trying to go out to Long Island, and then people will look at you weird.
That's excellent, and an excellent journey. We're talking with Wolf Wigo here. A couple of questions have come in, Wolf, and you've talked about just kind of your dedication to the sport. Catherine asks, did people ever mock you for how hard you were trying to make this all happen?
No, no one mocked me. I think people respected it. It was passion. Like I used to in high school. I remember there was only 5 days in all of high school that I didn't wear a T-shirt that wasn't a water polo shirt. And back then it was a lot harder to get gear, water polo gear. So you had to I remember I had a license plate H2O polo on. There was certain, but I just really loved it and wanted to do it as much as possible and have a ball in my hand all the time. Whether I was bouncing it, my neighbors, in an apartment, the guy below us just hated it. So sorry for him, but it was just.
So many people as well during this time. I think you're trying to find your confidence again. You've been out of the pool for a long time. Maybe you feel like you're not in water polo shape anymore. For the mental side of it, what's the message to those folks that are trying to get ready to gear back up, but they haven't been able to do all of this stuff now for maybe 2 months?
I think it'll make people hungrier to play. Hopefully, maybe some people their life will be happier that they're not getting tortured by their coach. But I think most people it'll be a refreshing break and they'll want to get back and have more passion when they get back to the pool. I know my kids are missing it a lot, but we're trying to do a lot of different activities. We've gone to the beach more up here, doing boogie boarding, surfing, getting to do active things that you maybe didn't have as much of a chance to do. It's harder to do a lot of stuff when you're going to the pool all the time. So, and building muscles in a different way, doing more bike riding. So I'm hoping people can do a lot more cross training, train in fun ways. I've done some of these Cap 7, we've done some of these workout videos, but I really don't like monotonous sort of gym type training. I really like to do activities that are fun and exciting and you're happy when you're doing them, and then they also build your skills. So bike riding, the leg strength is really great. If you're out boogie boarding or going for a run on the beach or doing something different, that's fun too. So, and then all the rebounder stuff. So I just hope people can do training that they enjoy and be mentally fresh for when water polo is back.
And then for those that are kind of on the rise, maybe a younger player still trying to find their way on their team or to make that big leap, they want to go JV varsity, they want to go to the A team of their club. Do you have a moment or a memory, that kind of helped build your confidence? You're obviously putting all this time in, you're training all over the place, you're taking the subway here and there, but was there a tangible moment where it's like, okay, everything I'm doing is making sense because this happened and I'm seeing a result of all the work I'm putting in?
Well, absolutely. I mean, everyone, I'm sure at some point doubts their ability or doubts, every time you move up a level, let's say from age group to high school or from high school to college or, the ODP or you go on a national team trip, and it's a new level. Everything's faster. Everyone's better at everything. You have that question. For me, I think it was, the first Junior Olympics I went to, we lost to a team from California. It was Trojan back then, like 17-1. And then the next summer we lost by like 6. And then the following summer we tied, and then we won the JOs. So you could actually see that progression. You could see the hard work that the players were getting in and putting in, and you can see that progression. That's always helpful to be able to track your progress, and whether you're writing it down or you're checking your swim times and they're getting faster, being able to see improvement is always a good motivation.
I'm talking with Wolf Wigo here. Just a couple more as we wrap up. You mentioned Cap 7 earlier. You obviously are heavily invested and involved with that company and all they're doing. You mentioned the Rebounders, some of the videos. What else is Cap 7 working on or is coming down the pike that you're kind of excited about here in this break from the action and then when we get back in the pool?
Well, we're always trying to do new products, improving the game. Maybe there's an existing product to improve it, or creating a new product. Right now, we're working on a glow-in-the-dark water polo ball where you have it, you like sort of tap it, and it just glows. I have a prototype in my house, and my kids, right before bed, you turn off the lights and pass the ball. It's really, really cool, a lot of fun. It's going to be waterproof. So that's one I'm really interested in. The stretch cord that we do, that's fun too in the pool. So, and the goals, we're constantly improving the inflatable goals. I'm going to do a video here where I take one of the goals out into the ocean and sort of set it up out there. So I'm always just excited about making the products more fun and better for people.
And the Cap 7 ball continues to just be everywhere. I mean, as you look around water polo, it started off slowly, and now it is in seemingly every important game or league. And I know the Olympics are also a target for you guys and FINA and all that stuff. But what's that process been like to just try and make that ball the ball that everyone knows and uses?
Well, it started out with improving the ball. Mikasa had been the best ball in the game for a while. They used to make their ball in Japan. I grew up playing with Mikasa all the time, and I used to love dropping a new ball in and sort of beads off. And there were some really great things about it. But once the quality went down, we really wanted to just have a great ball. And we made some changes to it with making the channels wider, more of a buffed grip, a little bit smaller. And a lot of the other brands are sort of copying that now and sort of trying to play catch up, but we're always sort of one step ahead of them. And we had a good game plan from the outset, a good business plan on how to get the contracts and slowly pick them off one at a time. And it just built from there. The company was started out of the garage, me and Brad, and, we didn't take any outside funding. There was no rich parent or rich uncle sort of backing us. We both sort of grew up from a modest family, and we sort of built it step by step. And it was sort of great to watch that happen. And we're really pushing hard to get these final, Olympic contract. And I think once we get that, the remaining few will fall into place. So it's a goal of ours.
And then just last thing for you, you've been so involved in the sport. I was trying to think of a part of water polo you haven't had some involvement in, whether it's high school club, national team, you're a college coach, Olympian, broadcaster, of course, for the last couple of Olympics with NBC. Involved in a company that makes water polo balls. Is there a goal left out there? I mean, obviously, I'm sure you'd love to win a national championship with the Gauchos, but is there, 10 years, 20 years down the road, something you're still trying to make happen in this sport?
Well, I was a referee also for a few years, but I don't think I'm going to dig into that. So I'll let those guys do. But I think for me, my goal is always to stay healthy and fit and play at the highest level for as long as I can, and be able to, physically able to help teach kids from in the water, not just from the deck. One thing I like to think of is there's a master swimmer who at age 65, he went 22-1 in the 50 freestyle. So if you think about that time, 22-1, someone age 65 years old, most guys on the college rosters can't go 22-1. And for me, water polo is much more mental. Swimming is just physical. You know, you have your technique, but I think you can play for a much longer time at a very high level in the sport of water polo, and you just don't see it. There's the one guy, there was a story who was 51 or 52 playing in the German first division. But you don't really see much of that. And I think as long as you live a healthy lifestyle, stay active, stay physically fit, players will be able to play a lot longer in the sport than you've seen in the past.
I mean, you know, as you talk about, you still play Masters, you still play National League, you still keep in shape. Does that ever cross your mind, like really trying to ramp it up again and play at the very highest level?
No, I'm not trying to. I don't want to play. I'm not like looking to play in the Olympics anymore. But
Or like
I'll
club in
always,
Europe or something, you know?
yeah, I would always keep like the options open. Like, if I was ever a coach somewhere, to be a player coach where you can jump in a little
Sure.
bit and help out. That would be super cool. But that's not, you know, that's not something I'm looking to do right now. But that's, you know, it's something I would like to do. I don't play really Masters, by the way. I only played Masters Nationals once,
Yeah.
2005. But I don't do
Sorry,
that
I meant
anymore.
more the
Yeah.
National League, you know, I guess level. It's a higher caliber of play.
Yeah,
Wolf,
you could say that. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. It is. Well, compared to Masters, I would say I would put a Nyack O Club National League Championship game as a higher level game than say your 30s Masters
Okay.
game, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
No
Probably.
insult to our good Masters water polo players. Wolf, always fun to catch up with you. Thanks for taking some time. Appreciate all the workouts and videos and everything you're doing to keep everyone healthy and fit out there.
All right. Thanks a lot. Take care.